Hello, this is Carl, the Lazy Reseller, and I wanted to go over some of my sales for July. I've picked a few that I have some more things to say about, why did I pick them up, what type of profits I would make if I would get them again or not. This item here is a Disney Infinity figure. Most of these figures do not have value. However, there are a few exceptions. This is one of them, Ant-Man. Now, I didn't make a fortune off this, but I probably bought this for about $1 in a bag with a bunch of other ones. Sometimes you can lock them up for okay value. I wouldn't have bought this this bag from Value Village if it didn't have this particular figure in it. I also look for red and black costume Spider-Man, have a bit more value. Also, Alice in Wonderland, some of the characters there have a lot of value. Disney Infinity's okay, but it's not a huge moneymaker for me. But I like knowing these particular items that have value, that are surrounded by items that don't have value, because you have a chance of still finding them at the store. So I probably made 12 or $13 off of this one. Not a big seller, but it was easy. It's easy to list. I don't test these. I make sure there's no major damage on it, and I disclose if I do. These microcassette voice recorders often have a lot more value than I think people realize, and I find them fairly regularly. They don't always work, so you're taking a bit more chance. It takes a little more time too because you have to actually test them. For these microcassette recorders, there's two types of tapes of different sizes, and so what I have is a bag where I keep all the tapes for these kind of devices, also CD, cassette, different tapes for my camcorders. So I always have a tape of the specific thing to test. And this one here, I wouldn't have paid more than $10 for. It sold fairly quickly, and I probably made 50 to $60 off of this. For me, for shipping, I actually charge approximately what it cost. Um, you know, the big thing about these voice recorders is you can actually find them. So when I'm going through the beauty section, which I don't do a lot of, but I do check, these Gillette cartridges, in fact, any cartridges, in fact, anything that's a kind of a consumable of something, I will check to see if it has value. Now, obviously, this is probably had this one for quite a long time, and actually one of them was missing, so there's only 23. But I probably paid $4 for this. It's easy to ship, no testing, easy to take pictures of. Doesn't take up a lot of room in your inventory. I don't find these a lot, but what I was trying to emphasize with showing this one is these types of items, especially if you see multiples in the same bag, can make a lot more sense than some of the other stuff we sell that is much bigger pain. So when I'm at the thrift stores, I tend to fall into a pattern. I'm sure everyone does this, where I hit the same sections all the time. And the issue with that is you can get yourself into a rut if you're not careful. And so what I've been trying to do is add the baggy wall for all the knickknacks and stuff like that, and find stuff in there. And I have had some luck in there. There's a lot more experience that's required because it's not as obvious when things have value. This thing here I paid probably $2.99 for. It's not silver sterling, it's silver plate. If it was sterling, it would have been worth $100. But this one sold for $29.99 American, and like I said, I only paid maybe $3 for this Canadian, so I probably made $25 off of this. And it's another one of those items that's easy to ship and list and take pictures, and it's quite small, so I like small too. My point in showing this is when you see something unusual like this, it might take a little time. Google Lens helps a lot to ID it, but sometimes I'll take a risk on this stuff. Not too much of a risk, just a bit. Keyboards, I've sold this keyboard, this specific one, 4 times. One time I did have a return, but I've made even more than this $280 in the past. And I found these, like I said, 4 times over 3 years. So it's not like you can see all these all the time. But what I'm showing you with this one is keyboards can have quite a bit of value. Also, the old white ones can have value. I personally, what I'll do is I'll know some of the model numbers to look for. This one's really obvious when it comes up. It was even quite worn, and they're very happy with it. And obviously, I must have paid like, who knows, $9.99 for this. It's big, and for testing, what you can actually do is there's a website that allows you to type each key, and I'll put that in the description, the link to that website. And when you hit the key, it makes a loud clicking noise, so you know it worked. So you don't have to actually look at the screen when you're testing this. You just have to hear to make sure it all works. And keyboards generally all work. With keyboards, the only thing I'm careful with is making sure all the keys are there, and also at the back, the little levers that lift the keyboard are all there, because sometimes those can get ripped off as well. Steel Series in general is a good one. Gaming keyboards can have value, but I do check them because a lot of them don't. So Kobo, this is a bolo I got off Chris's treasure chest. And then I do find these on the electronics wall. This one sold quickly. I think I paid $9.99 for this. The customer was very happy. I have had one not work, but this one worked fine. And I probably made $30 or $35 off of this in total. Like I said, for shipping, I use flat rates, and generally they're very close to actually what I pay. That's the way I prefer doing it. So now when I see these, I check these out, because this was a very quick sale as well, which is really nice, and it's easy to ship. You have to test, but it wasn't that big a deal to test. I made sure I wiped out the original information, and it's easy to store as well. This is a classic scrubbing bubbles. A lot of people probably know this bolo, and what it is in this case is just the cleaner refills. And like I was saying with the Gillettes, refills often have quite a bit of value. And what this is a device that goes in your shower and automatically cleans the shower. And often it doesn't work. And I have had problems with that, setting it off and it doesn't work. But even just the bottles themselves have value. And honestly, I'd rather just sell the bottles, because then I don't have to worry about anything. It's easy to list, easy to no testing. Shipping is a bit worrisome because you don't want this leaking. So usually what I do is I'll wrap each of them in the plastic bags that you get from Value Village, just to make sure if it does leak, at least it stays in the bag. But I haven't had an issue. It can take a little while to sell these, but people are still buying this stuff. So multiples. So Slime Blaster. Like, I had no idea when I saw this at Value Village that this particular item had value. I had a quantity of these, 3, and I think they bought 2 actually. I don't know why it's showing 1 sold, but I got the whole bag probably for $2.99 or something. And it's another one of those items you just put in a poly mailer, it goes out quick, doesn't take up a lot of room. These are quite small. You know, as part of the lazy reseller, I'm trying to avoid work, and multiples are great for that, especially if the item is the same. And I will do that for lots of different things, that it might not make sense to pick up one of these individually, but if you can pick up a bunch, then you do the work for one and it pays off for multiple items. Tamagotchis, they're little toys, little round toys. They were popular a while ago, and some of them have a lot of value. This is not a Tamagotchi toy, this is kind of the pet. And this is another one of those cases where I knew to check it out for a couple of reasons. One is new in packaging, which is great, because there's no work, and you can just scan the UPC code with your cell phone, and you can tell if it has value. The other nice thing is you don't have to worry about the condition. And if you see in this one here, you can actually see the packaging actually has quite a bit of damage. And I always disclose that in the description area. And yeah, it's better if it's perfect, but I wouldn't discount it either if it has a bit of ripping and stuff like this. And I probably paid, I don't know, $4.99 for this. So I probably made 30 or 40 bucks. A lot of the items I do sell are going to be of these ranges. I do have the home runs like everyone does. But, you know, my average selling price, I think, is around 50. Tapes, tapes, tapes. Love tapes. I sell so many tapes. They're a little heavy. And I'm becoming a little more fussier on the tapes I will get. But these ones here, I picked up a whole bunch of these really cheap. And Value Village sometimes will charge a lot and sometimes nothing for their tapes. Let's see, there's about 10 there. So I probably paid maybe $10 at most for these tapes. And they sold for 100. Shipping was probably correct. So I probably made 70 bucks, 75 bucks off of that. And I have a lot more. And yeah, people want tapes. I just make sure though that they are actually sealed because people are fussy on that. And you also be careful. Don't just look up the SA90, for example, because there can be different, even though it has the same name, SA90, they can be different versions. And people also care about where it's produced. So if you see this one, I said they're from Japan, and people seem to prefer that as opposed to made somewhere else, wherever. But I don't let that stop me from buying the item. It's just that it's another thing to put in your description. Yep, tapes are great. So I would consider this a home run. This was great. So I actually got this from the Mission Thrift store where I never find anything. And I'm old enough to have played this when it originally came out, even maybe on the Apple. And I couldn't test this because I don't have an Apple anymore. And what I don't want to do is hold on to items forever just to test them someday. And honestly, with these items, they're not necessarily buying it for the discs. Like that map that it shows is actually a cloth map. And all the pieces, all the stuff inside was in great condition. It sold relatively quickly for the full price. And the customer was really happy. And, you know, people often just look for console games. And this was a piece, desktop game, and those can have some value. And I doubt this would have been here for very long before it got sniped, but yeah, this was great. And you know, it was kind of my thing too. Great game. Here's another bread and butter item. Yahtzee. So I think this one is a Hasbro, right? But the only things to be careful with these, sometimes the screen's worn out, but often you can buy these in bags of 2 or 3 for relatively cheap. If they're asking a lot, I just leave them behind. And people like them. If they're Radica, they can actually have a lot more value for different things. And also, this is another one of those things that's often at the store. People aren't necessarily pick them up. Another one of these things that don't make me a ton of money, and I have to test it, but they're so cheap, and if I get enough in a bag, I still will pick these up. I prefer, you know, obviously the better ones, but you know, sometimes you're just going to be selling the small items as well. Anyways, that was it. I thought I should put out another video before it's being too late. I really appreciate everyone watching. I love constructive criticism. If you feel that I should go into less detail or more detail, or you feel the format isn't quite right, let me know. And if you like it, please subscribe. And that's it. Thank you very much.